Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donohue and Sonia Mansfield, talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donohue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. Y'all love it when we do show business creeps, when we cover those guys. And it's usually guys, and we do have actually a couple today to talk about.
Ooh.
Yeah. There was a lot of creeping going on in November of 2017. It was like every other day, someone was getting fired, someone was getting blasted in the press.
It's raining creeps. Hallelujah, it's raining creeps.
Amen. Let me just say, we're always looking for suggestions for creeps and for non-creeps. That's actually where we get stuck sometimes. We always end the show with someone who's not a creep, and leaving not feeling the world is a total fucking garbage fire.
I got a good one, y'all.
Awesome. And I think I just gave it away. We use salty language in this program, so keep that in mind if y'all are sensitive to these things. I'm just listening to a new podcast this week called Drama Queens. Sorry. And it's a One Tree Hill podcast. And I noticed, like, they actually take out the cuss words. Like, they talk, but they have somebody that muffles all their cuss words. Like, oh, is that a thing?
We don't do that.
We don't fucking do that. No. We do have a basic Facebook page, but we don't really use it. We actually are very interactive in our Facebook group. It's a private group. You have to promise not to be a creep, and you have to ask to join. We have a couple of questions. Just give it your best shot.
Yeah.
And just promise not to be an asshole. We'll be fine. We're on Twitter at CreepPod as long as that exists. Burp. Because somebody had it for 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
Everywhere else, we are at What a Creep Podcast. That means Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. What else, Sonia? That's all What a Creep Podcast.
All the things.
All the things.
Or it might just be at What a Creep, but you can find us on all the things.
All the things, including our basic old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you would like some stickers wherever you are on the planet of Earth, even in One Tree Hill, North Carolina, what?
What?
We will send them to you. Sonia, do you want to tell them about the website real quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could go to whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about the show, but we're afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
We're not
everything
scary.
Is there. We're not scary. We have links to all of our episodes, and you can click those links, and in there are all of our show notes because we source every single thing we do. We're not making this stuff up. We want to give everybody all the credit that they deserve. And if you're looking for a deeper dive, that's a great place to start. So do that. There's also a link to our Substack. It's free. You could sign up for that. And we send out a monthly newsletter with updates about creeps, our recommendations of things we're watching, reading, listening to, and it's got a horoscope.
We got horoscope, y'all.
We got horoscopes.
Are we in Sagittarius season? No.
Yes,
or Scorpio.
I think it's Sagittarius season. I forget. It's in the horoscope.
Right.
Go read the horoscope. There's also a link to our merch shop where you could get t-shirts and tote bags and face masks and all kinds of cool things. Go do those things. And there's a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. If you want to support the show financially and are able to do so, that's a great place to do it. We really appreciate those of you that sign up for it. This is season 22 that we're covering today.
22. Old enough to drink.
Old enough to do lots of things, but not rent a car, I think. I remember. I don't know if that law has changed. I know. Anyway, I want to thank Annie, Sue, Becky, Carrie, and Charlotte for all signing up for that. We totally appreciate that. I'm going to respond to all of you. Also, we put out 2 bonus episodes a month, and it's just Sonia and I shooting the shit, talking about creeps in the news, and we also sometimes tell stories that I don't want to put out there on the feed.
Yes. And if you sign up for the Patreon, please send us your address if you want to, because we send out a holiday card.
to all the Patreon peeps.
Yes.
Thank y'all so much. If money is tight, and we totally understand that, if you could just leave us a review, nice 5-star review. If you're going to be 1 star, at least be original.
Yeah.
Or in Spotify, I want to thank Good Pods. We were just there on one of their lists for top podcasts.
Thanks,
So
Good Pods.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Alrighty. So I think we went through everything. Sonia.
Yeah.
All right. Let me bring up. There's a lot to go through today. And as Sonia says, we don't make this stuff up. So, people are litigious. I just want you to know we do have sources for all this material. I wanted to talk to you actually first about One Tree Hill.
Yeah.
I want to know what your experience is with this show.
I watched, I think, the first 2 or 3 seasons back in the day. I will tell you, I don't remember a lot about it. I remember who's in it. I remember that it started as like, it was like, oh, 2 brothers, like one is like the illegitimate son, quote unquote illegitimate son, and the other one's like the one that actually like has the relationship with the dad. And it seemed to be like a family drama kind of, and then it turns into like a full-on soap opera.
Ooh.
And I had no issue with the soap opera aspect. It was merely just I didn't have enough time to keep watching One Tree Hill, but I was enjoying all of it because I was kind of in the bag for like those WBCW teen dramas. I liked them. I thought they were very entertaining.
They're usually filmed in North Carolina, a lot of them, because they have those really nice tax breaks that you can get there. Not everything's shot in Atlanta.
Yeah, the Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill,
Supernatural, is that there? I mean,
I think
there's also Vancouver. There's a bunch in Vancouver.
Yeah, and there was like Everwood was one of those.
Yes,
I watched
is that
Everwood.
the one with Treat Williams, R.I.P.?
Yes.
Aww.
Like all like Gilmore Girls. Like I was in for all of those things. I watched them all the time.
So when you were on that channel, I was at VH1 watching everything there.
I probably watched all that too.
Yeah,
because I watched a lot of TV. I was a TV critic for a while. I watched everything.
Well, the show launched in 2003, and at that time, I was working for YM Magazine, and it was for the former Gruner and Yar Publishing, RIP to the magazine industry. But I got to work, I was the PR person, and so when we had celebrity covers, if they were in New York, I got to go to them because we usually invited like Entertainment Tonight or E! News or somebody.
That's so cool.
It was rad. It was my favorite job. And we had the One Tree Hill cast, and it was a big deal because Chad Michael Murray and Sophia Push,
yes,
they were dating, but they didn't want that to get out.
Right.
And so I used to know the people at Page Six, and I could have like totally busted them, but I didn't. I respected it. She's beautiful. Nice. They were both beautiful and very sweet.
Sophia Bush, by the way, does stories on the Calm app. She has such a great voice. Yeah, like they're for children. They're like, it's like a cloud that like talks, and it's like Yanni McDonie or something like that, and it's a cloud that's very sleepy, and it's like yawn.
She has a great voice.
She does. And
yeah,
my son and I used to listen to them all the time together, and they're very entertaining. Her voice is lovely. Like, it's very soothing.
I never really watched the show. I mean, there's just lots of things on TV, and it's just one of those things. I couldn't believe this list of people. It was like Moira Kelly, Barry Corbin, Craig Sheffer. I forgot about. Yeah, he's so hot. I mean, it has some really great people involved, but it was this. Yeah, it was very popular. The WB and UPN combined to be the CW.
Yeah,
there's always these media mergers that happen in our life, but it was a super hot show. I didn't watch it, but you did. But I remember everybody being obsessed with it. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the showrunner, and if you're wondering, the showrunner is somebody who makes sure the show runs. Derp, but it's like it's the conduit between the studio and the actual show. Quite often they're creative. There's somebody that came up with the idea, or they're with a group of producers. But they're also in charge of like the budget, the actors, how the story arcs will go, if there's going to be promotions and publicity, like how do we get all that together? It's a big job to have. And a lot of what's going on with the WGA strike and then the SAG strike was sort of like it's just getting bottlenecked so much that people aren't getting this chance to go up the ladder because there's just certain people, when they get their power, they don't want to bring people with them.
Yes. They want to pull up the ladder.
They want to pull up that damn ladder. And So we did a whole episode about the SAG strike, by the way. They've settled, and I'm super psyched about that. But that means that people are going to go back into production, and there are some problematic people. And this is somebody that we're talking about. Actually, there's two CW people that we're talking about today. But the main focus is Mark Schwahn, who has, first of all, Schwahn has got a punchable face if there ever was one. But that's not the reason he's a creep. All right. Let's just start with this. One Tree Hill was a popular CW show that had all the ingredients for success. Attractive actors, dramatic storylines, a complex timeline. I tried to read from this Wikipedia page how they jumped around 4 years and they went back 6 months. I got totally confused. So this would have killed me anyway. However, the show was marred by the inappropriate behavior of its showrunner, Mark Schwahn. His harassment and mistreatment of the cast and crew were brought to light by writer Audrey Wauchope, in a series of tweets in 2017 during the height of the Me Too movement. As we said, Matt Lauer was fired, Bill O'Reilly. It was like every
Charlie
week.
Rose.
Charlie Rose. I mean, it was a new dickhead every other day.
Yes.
A month of dickheads. This followed the investigation of another CW showrunner, Andrew Kreisberg, who was accused of sexual harassment and creating an unsafe work environment on The Flash, another show I've never seen.
I've never watched that one.
He was paid $10 million to leave. They just paid him out.
Damn. I would
And-
like to be paid $10 million to leave things. That would be dope.
Today we're discussing the impact of a toxic boss on a workplace and the bravery of the women who spoke out against this behavior. Their actions have set a new standard for a safer and more respectable work environment. We fucking hope, particularly after the recent strikes in the United States. Sources for this episode, several BuzzFeed articles. They're all linked in the show notes. You can just swipe the artwork. Drama Queens podcast, which is like it's the hosts. It's Sophia Bush, Bethany Joy Lentz, and Hillary Burton Morgan. They watch episodes and then they just talk, like they just give you the goss, like what it was like to film on that show and the guest stars and shit like that.
Yeah,
it's great.
If you haven't watched One Tree Hill, those were the three main female stars of the show,
and they became like best friends when they were filming, which was a problem for Mark. Because he likes it better when nobody gets along because he's a fucking creep. Anyway. Variety, Screen Rant, EW, Insider, Decider, Hollywood Reporter, Best Life Online, Deadline, The Wrap, Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. I think actually, Sonia, that could be a love interest for you. He's very cute. He did he was the bald guy in the Smallville show. He did Lex Luthor.
I watched a couple seasons of that. That's another WBCW UPN show that I watched for a while. Yep. I know who that is.
And he had Sophia on his show, and it was an incredible interview. I really enjoyed it. AV Club, and of course, the book Burn It Down. Power, Complicity, and a Call for Change in Hollywood by Maureen Ryan. One of my favorite books from last year.
Yeah, so good.
But it's a rage read. Like, you're just going to want to, like, throw it at the wall occasionally. Trigger warnings for today's episode: sexual harassment, sexual assault, and workplace abuse. So if those things, any of those things are triggering, they are for most of us. I mean, just kind of, like, take care of yourselves.
Yes.
All right. Let me bring up this asshole.
Fucking asshole.
You just write things and you're just like, ugh.
Yep.
So Schwahn is from Pontiac, Illinois, July 5th, 1966, University of Maryland. I don't know that much about him. He's kind of not the most nobody talks about showrunners, by the way. It's very
Yeah.
rare when that happens, so that's not his
Right.
fault. But he's a sports guy and he's a film guy, and he had done some independent movies and got some good breaks. And he originally wanted to make One Tree Hill a feature-length film called The Ravens, and it's about a high school basketball team. And he, of course, bases part of this experience in high school, his experience. And he talks about, I was, from the wrong side of the tracks. I was kind of a loser. The cheerleaders didn't like me. Yeah. And instead it became a TV series because they kind of saw like there's actually some possibility here. You get, some hot people and, put them in situations.
Yeah.
Film it in fucking North Carolina where it's cheap.
Yes.
And pretty. By the way, it's a very pretty
Yeah.
state.
You could watch Riverdale right now. It's like the same.
Yes. Riverdale.
It's the same thing.
Look, we had Melrose Place. We had 90210. We had
There's no judgment here.
none.
These shows are very entertaining.
Let me tell you guys, I am someone who has seen every single episode of Real Housewives of New Jersey. I am not a snob, okay?
No, these shows, there's a reason like they're popular. They are very entertaining. They have beautiful people in them. Like they usually feature like music and stuff that like younger people like the clothes and all. Like, yes, people like what they like. It's okay. No judgment here on the One Tree Hill fans.
Yeah. No, I get it. I was watching it, like I said, for the first time last night. Season 4, episode 17. Just so for those keeping tabs at home. Anyway, it comes from, and I wondered about this, but this kind of bums me out, but he named the town Tree Hill because he really likes the song of a similar name from the Joshua Tree, which is like, I really like that fucking song too, and it really bums me out that he used it. But anyway,
Yeah.
It's also a Tolan Robbins production. Brian Robbins used to work with Dan Schneider. We
Yes.
talked about him in the past. Supposedly, Tolan's a really nice guy, and it was a good person to work for. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Hope so.
It has millions of fans. The podcast Drama Queens with Hillary, Sophia, and Bethany. I hope it's okay if I use their first names because I'll get tongue-tied if I don't. I was telling you off the air, I mix up names sometimes, so I have to be careful. And now that I find out that I posted in our Facebook group, I was there for that YM shoot, and then immediately had a bunch of our listeners actually said, wait a second, didn't they break up? Because I don't know. They broke up, but they broke up. I hope, but I'm sure they're both doing fine, doing their own thing.
I'm sure they are, and they're young. Like, guess what? Young people on sets hook up. They make mistakes. They're young. Whatever.
I was talking to someone, I'm working on a project, and I was talking to someone who worked a lot of movie sets throughout his career, and he's just like, it's rife for that. You get really close to people. You're on location. People are good looking. You have deep conversations in between, setups and stuff.
Oh my God. I was in my 20s, like late teens, early 20s, working at a movie theater. Everyone there was fucking.
Yes.
We're not a movie set. We're not a TV show. Everyone there fucked everybody else. It's just super normal when you get a bunch of young people together. It's going to happen.
It's totally going to happen. They got married very young. I mean, like we said, just these things happen. I don't know the circumstances. I'm sure there's an episode devoted to it. I'm going through their back catalog, so maybe they do. But anyway, I do recommend it. They're very funny and smart, and they have a really interesting eye. It's interesting to watch people work on a thing that they put out like 15 years ago, and they are able to enjoy in a whole different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, and it probably helps that they're such good friends still.
Yes.
So that they can watch it together. And I mean, the show brought them their friendship. Like, there's got to be fun memories there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So our first creep we're going to get to, I know I just mentioned the other creep, but the mini creep, super creep, whatever. Andrew Kreisberg was the co-creator of The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. I saw none of those.
Seen those.
Never seen this. So what happens in November of 2017 is there's an article that comes out. Maureen Ryan was the reporter, but there were 19 people sourced for a story that were in fear of retaliation, and basically they were alleging harassing behavior by Kreisberg, everything from frequently touching people without their permission, asking for massages, from kissing women without asking. Almost every source cites a constant stream of sexualized comment about women's appearances, their clothes, and their perceived desirability. Take a look at this asshole, by the way. Look him up. He had told Variety, he said, nope, that wasn't me. I didn't do anything wrong. I have made comments on women's appearances on clothes in my capacity as an executive producer, but they were not sexualized. Like many people, I have given someone a non-sexual hug or kiss on the cheek. Oh, my God.
By the way, if anyone asks you for a massage, just fucking run, man. Who are these men constantly asking for fucking massages?
Harvey Weinstein, Charlie Rose. It's the creep playbook.
Yes. Ugh.
One of the people that spoke out said that the workplace feels unsafe for women, but also that he just plain old scares people. He's also, the production company was run by Greg Berlanti and Sarah. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Let me just say this. So the mega producer is Greg Berlanti. He oversaw all those shows, and then you give the power to the showrunner to hire writers and to get this all together. And there were people who spoke to Kreisberg over the years and said, it seems like, you're creeping out women. You really have to be, more careful about your words or what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And then he would just not respond to anything. He didn't think he did anything wrong. He was, he denies all these allegations, by the way.
Of course.
Warner Brothers does an investigation of him. He gets fired and they give him a $10 million payoff. So this is when Audrey Woshop from One Tree Hill, she's now writing, at the time, she was writing for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, another show I've never seen. I promise to one day.
I started Crazy Ex-Girlfriend a couple months ago. It's really fucking good. It's way better than I thought it was going to be. And I have had friends begging me for years to watch the show. And I was like, I'll get around to it. And I finally started it. And I was like, the show is fucking dope. The songs are hilarious and awesome. And it's about bigger things than you think. It's really good. Watch it if you have. It's on Netflix.
Well, I'm going to watch it because Audrey Woshop was one of the writers.
Yes.
So she and her writing partner, Rachel Spector, were hired for the show. They were both actors before they became writers, and are very attractive people. And first of all, they were told that the only reason you were hired is because you're good looking.
Oh,
and he only hires people that he finds, quote unquote, fuckable. At the time. Yeah. In 2017, Schwahn was working on the E! Show, The Royals, and that's one with Elizabeth Hurley and a bunch of British people.
I didn't watch that one.
No, nor did I. She put out a whole bunch of tweets, and amongst the things she talked about was that Schwann's whole thing was touching women without their permission. He would sit next to them he'd sit really close to women and put his arms around them, give massages, pet their hair, talk about their, bodies, talk about their clothes, but like in the guise of like, oh, I'm just talking about wardrobe, but he's just being a pig. He also would show, he was having affairs with different actresses that appeared on the show. He would show staff members naked pictures of this woman that he was having an affair with. So he's in his 40s.
Appropriate work behavior.
Crew of people. I'm going to read you some of her tweets. Imagine feeling for the rest of you. This is what Rachel was talking about. First,
Yes.
she and her writing partner were told that they were hired just because they were attractive. Imagine being told, you feel like you would have imposter syndrome because I didn't get this job because I deserve it. It's just because this guy has the hots for me. The staff sat on couches. So the female writers would try to get a spot where the showrunner wouldn't sit as to not be touched. Other men would try to go to the meeting early to sit next to the women to keep him away from the guy. Sometimes
do their jobs.
Women doing their jobs. Sometimes, this is November 11th, 2017. And this is in the AV Club link, by the way. They're all there. Sometimes we wouldn't luck out, and he'd just squeeze his disgusting body in between us and put his arms around us, grinning. He pet hair, massaged shoulders. I know he did more, but not to me, so those are not my stories to share. Ever since then, I just state I don't like to be touched. This often makes me sound angry or not warm. It's just that people get freaked out.
Yes.
Another thing I told you about the naked pictures, her writing partner, just before she got married, he asked her to go to his office, just to wish her good luck or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he shut the door and said, can I just have one more shot with you? Is that possible? Can I have just one more shot with you? And everyone's like, ha ha ha. No.
Fucking no. No, dude.
He was a man in a position of power who was allowed to run a television show for years where his behavior continuously went on. I don't blame the men of the staff. I truly believe they were also, in a way, victims of psychological abuse and didn't know what to do. You have to remember, these people are under contracts, and a lot of times you have a few months of work. It's not guaranteed years of employment. There's like 250 people on a show. So, and people have bills to pay. And it's hard to get another gig. You don't, and it shouldn't be like take the abuse or get fired. That should never be. I'm sorry. This is the point I wanted to make before. I know I'm rambling, Sonia. I do that sometimes.
You're fine.
But people seem to think that because Hollywood jobs or show business jobs appear so like delightful and amazing, and they're so tough to break in, that it should be really difficult and awful, like just to balance things out, which is just bullshit. It's a job.
Such bullshit.
It's a job like anything else, and you shouldn't have to put up with illegal behavior.
Yes. You're lucky to be here.
Right.
I can hire 1,000 people to replace you.
And it's constantly being told that and having somebody in charge who doesn't have consequences.
Yes.
It just makes everybody feel like, why even bother? She said, moving on, the day the studio lawyers came to give the sexual harassment seminar, many of us had pointed questions we were going to ask. Guess what? He didn't show up. Guess what?
Surprise. He's like, I'm really good at sexually harassing. I don't need to be there.
I don't need pointers.
Yes.
I'm furious and sad and everything else for the women who sat on the couch next to that man. And I'm furious and sad and everything else that years later I don't feel safe to be able to reveal, to do anything real about this. And that seems to be happening all over this town. So that's the thing she puts out. And so Sophia Rose and the entire cast get together and they say, yeah, girl, in response, 18 cast and crew members published a letter supporting her. And this is what they said. To whom it may concern, all of the female cast members of the One Tree Hill chosen this forum to stand together, all of them, in support of Audrey. To use terminology that has become familiar as the systematic reality of sexual harassment and assault has come in more and more to light. Mark Schwamm's behavior, the duration of the filming of One Tree Hill, was something of an open secret. We talk about a lot of this on the shows. Mm-hmm. Many of us, to varying degrees, manipulated psychologically and emotionally. More than one of us is still in treatment for post-traumatic stress. Many of us were put in uncomfortable positions and had to swiftly learn to fight back, sometimes physically, because it was made clear to us that supervisors in the room were not the protectors they were supposed to be.
It's fucked up.
It's incredibly fucked up. And they have their support for one another, and they completely... Anyway.
Yeah. It's so fucked up.
Hillary Burton talks about a story. So she was also an MTV VJ before
That's right.
she got on the show.
Right.
And there's a whole thing where Ben Affleck was being interviewed by her and was all handsy and grabby.
Yes.
That's Hillary. So she's married to Jeffrey Morgan from the zombie show. God damn it.
From the Walking Dead.
Thank you. Sorry.
He also, I think he is also very well known as playing Denny on Grey's Anatomy.
I've never seen that show.
Another soapy show that is somehow still on the air, but I mean, I'm going to take that back. People
on the show.
He was the one. He was the one that was like paired up with Katherine Hagel and like, yeah, he died
Sonia,
on the show.
Heigl. Sorry.
Heigl.
Remember she was at the Oscars and she got really pissy about that.
Anyway,
she had some bad advice for a few years.
He's very handsome.
Hillary talks about one time they were going to a town in Texas, and I'm sorry if I can't remember the name, but the town is so small that the nearest big town is Paris, Texas, and it turns out that place is under 25,000 people. So they're going to, and at the whole point in the show is that the whole cast is going to go to this small town in Texas because some guy gets arrested. His name is Mouth or something, and he's sort of the creator's doppelganger or whatever you want to call it. Like he wrote this character about himself, that he's this, once again, a dorky guy. Cheerleaders didn't like him and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So he tells Hillary Burton, that was her name at the time, says to Hillary, you and I are going to go to this Texas town ahead of time for publicity. I'm going to fly with you and we're going to go there. And then there's another thing to talk about is he was based in L.A. and the show was in North Carolina. So when he wasn't there, when he wasn't present, like physically, it was a lot easier for people to deal with him. He still was an asshole. Sure. But they felt safer. But like to be alone with this guy is to be handsy. It's for him to drag you into rooms for private meetings. And she talks about, he takes her, makes her go to Texas, like a private flight, gets all handsy with her on the plane, gets all handsy with her, all over the place there.
Poor woman.
And she had to fight him off. Like,
it's ridiculous.
In an airplane.
The answer is no. Keep your fucking hands to yourself. Like, again, she's just trying to work and she has to put up with this bullshit over and over.
This is her. She's like 22, 23. Her boss is in his 40s and he's married. This is not okay.
Poor wife.
Ugh. Anyway, the cast films the show there. And the show, that's season 4, episode 17, as I mentioned before. Okay. And it's some toxic bullshit masculinity. This guy, this person that's his character on the show gets arrested. He's in jail, and the friends have to come and bail him out. And he bonds with the other prisoners, and they're all like calling women bitches. And they're, he recently gets laid with this popular girl, and he tells everybody about it. I mean, this character sounds like a shithead. But anyway,
it's so funny. I don't even remember him, but I bet if I looked at a cast photo, I'd be like, oh, that guy.
It's like the mouth breather guy. I don't know. It's like his name is Mouth.
Also,
Mouth McFadden. Nothing against the actor, by the way, Lee Norris. That's not you. All my anger and bile is aimed at Mark Schwahn, not you.
I was out by season 4, so
yes. So this is So they go and like the whole thing is that like there's a country music guy that they're friends with, and like one of the girls he looks at a girl and goes, I remember you're cute, like we had a good time, but you got fat. And she's like, I'm pregnant. Goes, oh, wasn't me, was it? It's like, what the fuck is this show? I think, like I said, they call women bitches, but when the cast is like winding down, they would go to these bars and learn 2-step dancing, and they were there to have. They wanted to have fun. They wanted to meet their fans. They wanted to be in this, have a good time. So they're at this bar, and he once again gets all handsy with Hillary Burton, like really grabs at her. And Chad Michael Murray shoved him away and said, what the fuck are you doing? And screamed at him because he's the one that had the most power. He was top of the call sheet.
Yes, he's the biggest star on the show at the time.
And he's a very tall guy. He's also physically tall. But she said like that was the only time. Like her own boyfriend and her boyfriend's her boyfriend's father Well, that would be a complicated relationship. Said to her, like, I really admire you. You know, you really have a lot of resilience. You know, you really handle yourself well. And it's like, and as somebody
She shouldn't have to.
As somebody who's been through a lot of shit myself, it's something I'm complimented for, and I always kind of want to go, yeah, but who needs to be this resilient? I mean, it's I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was that episode. Danielle Ackles, who played Rachel Gattina, he was one of the ones that he had a crush on. He would stalk her to her hotel room and demand that she sees him. Sophia Bush,
Asshole.
he had a huge crush on Sophia Bush. Like I said, half his age. And
He's married.
And she's playing a high school student. He would constantly say things about, like, one time she changed her hair, like she cut her bangs and did something different. Yeah. And he said, "How dare you?" He screamed in her face. "Nobody wants to fuck a cheerleader who cuts her bangs. You're supposed to be playing the girl that I wanted to fuck when you were high school, when I was in high school." Like, in her face, yells at her.
Dude, fucking get a therapist, man. I just want to say there was a whole thing on like WB, CW, UPN shows about the women on those shows.
Yes.
And what they did to their hair. They lost their shit when Carrie Russell cut her hair on Felicity. It was a thing when Sarah Michelle Gellar cut her hair on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They lose their shit. It's like because they don't have control or something. Like, people lose their shit. It's so fucked up.
It is control, and we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
I was telling you, I think this is on a different show. I mentioned that the kill the cheerleader syndrome, which is this whole idea of like punishing, you know, attractive women that you had, like somebody that you knew would have rejected you in high school, which, by the way, everybody gets rejected at some point. Yeah. You're not entitled to any ass.
I'm super nice. How come she doesn't like me?
That should change everything. No.
Yeah.
No. He screamed at her about cutting her bangs. He also apparently, when they felt that he also wanted to do a lot of like sex scenes that they didn't think was necessary, like unnecessarily racy. But when you do those scenes, everything you wear has to go through wardrobe. And every time, and they have to take pictures of all your outfits. And then he's the guy that approves the outfits. So guess what? If you're in your underwear or in lingerie in a scene, they're going to take pictures of you in your underwear and lingerie. And it's a woman that's in charge of it. And it's supposed to be a woman that, like, you know, to keep these private. Yeah. He would publish these photos. He posted these photos on a board in his office.
So gross. So gross.
He's super gross.
I would like other men to step in these situations and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, let me tell you something. Craig Sheffer tried doing that. I didn't know this. Craig Sheffer, so he's in the Brad Pitt movie with a fly fishing.
A river runs through it.
Yes. He's also in the John Hughes movie, Some Kind of Wonderful, isn't he? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's like the bad boyfriend or something.
He's very handsome.
He is. He is a very handsome man.
He was a guest on their show, and this is like April of 2022. You could look this episode up. He still looks great. He was with Andy Warhol's crew in the early 80s. And he like hung out with David Bowie. Warhol took a picture of him that was sold for like a hell of a lot of money. I mean, he was like super, super hot. He's a single parent, and he's, you know, trying to make a living like everybody else in show business. So he takes this gig, and he said that he and Mark Schwahn hated Chad Michael Murray because Chad Michael Murray had more power than him, was good looking.
Right.
Didn't have to work.
And chicks wanted to fuck him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Craig Sheffer's probably the same thing. But he said this he would give him a hard time about his hair, about the kind of pants he wore. He gave him a hard time when he said, I'd really like to have like every other Friday be like a half day or something so I could be with my kid. And everything he asked for, Mark Schwahn would then call his agent and scream at him that I'm going to, you know, get rid of this guy because he's being such a pain in the ass. And he's like, I'm not asking for anything wild. I mean, these people are in North Carolina, but they have families other places.
Yes. No, you have to be thinking about him and his show all the time. You can't have a life outside of that. It's all about him. Me, 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 me.
Well, he was supposed to be on the show, and he was on for a couple of seasons, but I guess like Mark thought he just clashed too much. because he just killed him off the show. He didn't kill him in
Nice.
real life, but he killed off his
Yes.
character.
Yes,
and he
yes.
found out like very last minute with no
Of course.
warning. And like once again, like these people take these gigs and they count on that money
Yeah.
to, you know,
It's
pay
it's
bills.
such a dick. It's such a dick move too to like kill off a character like that. Just be like, you're never coming back. You're dead. You could come back on like a daytime soap, but
That's the
They
best
don't
when they
usually
do
do-
that. It's the best thing about soap.
actually, you know what? I should take that back because Melrose Place they brought many a people back from the dead. Never mind. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about.
The best thing was Kimberly when she took the wig off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was so good.
Come on, that's a top 10 moment. Everybody knows where they were when they saw Kimberly take her wig
I
off.
screamed out loud. I
Is
was
it-
so excited.
I was in college and we were all watching it. And we were like, what?
And it was like the last scene of the show, like of that episode. Like you had to wait
It
a
was like
week
for
to
the,
find
it was
out.
like
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my God. That's a top 10 moment.
So at this time that in 2017, he's in charge of a show for E called The Royals. I don't know what it's about, but it's got Elizabeth Hurley and it's got a lot of royal
Yeah.
people. Now, this is the most British thing I'm ever going to read out loud. So I'm apologizing now if I
Okay.
do anything wrong. But they had their own letter for Variety. This is right after the One Tree Hill when 18 cast members got
Yeah.
together. This is 25 cast and crew members.
Okay.
Despite hearing rumors about his behavior on One Tree Hill, those of us involved from the early stages went into filming of the pilot, hoping they were just that, rumors. By the time we wrapped, this had irrevocably proven not to be the case. I can't do this without doing an English accent, I'm sorry. It became all too apparent reading their statement earlier this week that the betrayal and anger of so many of us have experienced during our time on the Royals is not exclusively ours. And we were angry then and we are angry now. It's a collection of voices. We finally respond to the behavior. I'm sorry, they spell the words weird in England. Sorry, you do.
Yeah.
Take the U's out of everything, people. Okay. Who felt the inclination to abuse his power and influence in an environment where he had it over women who felt they did not. This manifested itself in repeated unwanted sexual harassment of multiple female members of the cast and crew. Where we should have been excited to meet new female cast and crew members, we felt nauseating concern in case they too should have him track down their mobile number. Where we should have offered our friends who auditioned for the Royals scene help and advice, we were offered warnings about the man that they would meet in the room. More than all of this, where we should have all collectively have felt proud of our jobs, hard won, and roles much loved, we felt undermined as artists and creatives, and in many cases, no more than a sum of body attributes. This is just fucking disgusting.
What a fucking pig.
So, yeah, he was just a real pig one place. and he was a
Also,
super
sorry.
pig.
Pigs are really smart. I shouldn't say that.
No, he doesn't deserve to get a. Yeah, you're right. And Elizabeth Hurley put out a bunch of posts and said, and whilst I didn't know, what was going on. She said she never noticed, but that of course she stands up with everybody else, and it's
Yeah.
just. Anyway, he's fired. Let's go back to that dickhead Andrew Kreisberg.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm going to say this very carefully. He was reportedly arrested and charged in March of this year, 2023, the year of our Lord, 2023, by way of a citizen's complaint with forcible touching for an alleged incident at a May 2022 bar mitzvah in Westchester. So he had moved to Westchester after getting his $10 million for getting fired a few years before. This woman made a claim that he approached her while she was eating, and then he slid his arms around her waist, grabbed it firmly, and thrust his penis into her buttocks twice. She's got clothes on, but it was like
Yeah.
once she realized what was going on, she said, "What the fuck are you doing? Get away from me." He had to surrender to police, and they basically and this is a good thing about the podcast that they talked about, is that the woman was then seen enjoying the party like having drinks and dancing and stuff. And sometimes you can go through something really horrifying and then turn right around and your body just tries to normalize and your brain just tries to normalize.
Right.
That's just the way some of us cope. And
also, it could be she doesn't want to ruin this for other people.
No, it's
right?
a kid's bar mitzvah, for Christ's sakes. Like, she doesn't want to be call the police right now.
Yeah, you don't want to be like, Lisa and Monica at Whitney's daughter's roller rink birthday and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and ruin kids' birthday parties.
There's some great dirt on Monica. We'll talk about it off the air.
Ooh,
that just came out today.
Ooh.
He by the way, he denied all the charges from all those other shows that I mentioned, Archer and whatever like that. But he still got fired. They did an investigation and he was fired. His attorney maintains his innocence. He said that her client is misunderstood. You'll love this, as a neurodivergent individual who is socially awkward.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Please note.
Sorry.
This was
not accepted.
Yes. She said, please note this was not some random citizen, but one of a set of women who had grown up with him, with Mrs. Kreisberg, and were disparaging of her husband because they did not understand his neurodivergency. This is classic ableist bullying, sadly, by adults.
No.
I don't accept that either.
No.
Go ahead.
So I was to say, as a mother of an autistic son, like, no.
Right.
Sorry. I'm not buying that. Not one bit, not 1 second of that apology. Or it's not an apology. Sorry. Excuse.
So they did an investigation. It's kind of like, he's sort of like he has to just stay out of trouble, and don't get in trouble. But I'm sure he's not going to invite it to those parties anymore.
Right.
But he's a producer, but he's not really producing anything right now. Anyway, that's our couple of creeps this week that were from the WB, Mark Schwahn and what's his nuts? I've already dropped the script. I can't take it anymore. This one filled me with anger.
They're so gross. Whenever we do these kinds of creeps, I get so pissed off, because these are people that are just trying to work and they are abusing their power and they're acting like garbage people. And I fucking hate it.
Yeah. And the women were saying, when they talk about the show, because they always laugh and they're always in this great mood. Because it's they were saying, it's so complicated because they really loved doing the show. They love that crew. And they were like, Craig Sheffer, I forgot to mention, there's another thing he said. He said he remembers about them because I don't know if it was Joy or Sophia or Hillary, but one of them said they had a huge crush on him because, of course, when they were filming the show.
Fucking duh.
And he said, yeah, I know. He goes, you one time left a note for me. You were drunk and you left a note for me at my door asking to go have beers with you. And he said, I got this note. I'm like, these girls are like kids to me. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And he was like, boundaries. He understood.
Yes.
Healthy boundaries. But they were saying there's so many great times on that show and they met so many great people and they all became close and they know about and then they said, so it's all gets wrapped up in a weird thing. Like I said, they're this woman was enjoying the bar mitzvah. I'm like, what do you want her to do? Scream and yell all over the place? Then she's somebody who can't handle things, right? She's a hysterical woman and you got to.
Yes.
And so, we compliment women and ourselves when we overcome things, but it's hard to overcome.
So strong.
Yeah, you're resilient. You're strong and you really take it on the chin and, you shouldn't have to. And I have a hard time accepting that compliment too.
Yeah.
Because I kind of well, fuck, what is it about? Or, I got to just do it. But anyway, I really like the podcast. I think they're great. And I think this guy's a pig. And this is just these are just the ones where people talk. People don't talk because they're under contract. They don't talk because they're terrified of not finding work again. It's very, the unemployment rate is low right now, but nobody talks about the fact that's a lot of gig workers and people that are just going from paycheck to paycheck, gig to gig. And, you get this big break and you don't want to lose it and you think you can manage it. Or you think, I'll go to human resources, will say, this guy is...
And they'll protect me.
They'll protect me. They'll have a talk with him and say, look, we get it, you're in charge, but no, you can't be doing this shit.
Yeah.
But he produces a hit, and so nobody wants to say anything. It's so twisted and fucked up. Anyway, that's my creeps this week.
Fuck those creeps.
Sorry, y'all.
You want to hear about someone who's not a creep?
Please, please, please.
Okay, let me pull up my notes. Do you know who Sam Simon is?
Yeah. Was he with The Simpsons?
Yes.
Oh,
Sam
I know
Simon.
I love this guy.
Sam Simon was a TV writer and a producer. He worked on Taxi and Barney Miller and Cheers. It's the Gary Shandling Show. This is the theme to Gary Show.
The theme to Gary Show.
He worked on the Tracy Ullman Show. He worked on the short-lived George Carlin Show, the Drew Carey Show, and of course The Simpsons. And then he wrote a little movie called The Super, which I believe filmed in Brooklyn. Yes,
it might have been
Joe Pesci.
with Joe Pesci. Yes. That's
so. But he's also
he's no longer with us, right?
Correct.
Okay.
He
Spoiler.
was also like a really big animal lover. So, but I'm going to give you a little background here. So he was born June 6th, 1955 in Los Angeles. He grew up very comfortable in Beverly Hills. He lived across the street from Groucho Marx and around the corner from Priscilla Presley.
Oh, I would have loved that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was recruited to play football at Stanford, but he quit after like one day of practice. He was like, that's enough of that. And he worked drawing cartoons for the sports section of the San Francisco Chronicle. And then after graduation, he got a job as a storyboard artist and a writer for something called Filmation Studios. And he worked on things like Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids and like Heckle and Jekyll and stuff like that. But he like mailed an unsolicited script to Taxi, and they accepted it and produced his script. And like the following year, he was one of the show's like main writers.
That never happens.
It never happens anymore.
No,
like, that might have been something that happened
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So this led to like a lot of opportunities for him. And he, worked on shows like Cheers and all the other ones that I mentioned. But then he got a job on the Tracy Ullman Show. And of course that led to The Simpsons. Because if y'all don't know, The Simpsons started as shorts on the Tracy Ullman Show.
And they were ugly, by the way.
They were so
hideous
ugly
looking. Yes.
But he was working with Matt Groening on the show, and he was the stories I read were like he was very instrumental in helping like develop Springfield, the town. It's like the range of characters on the show, like because if you watch The Simpsons, there's the main family and everyone knows the family, but there's a huge amount of like supporting characters. And he was very like into that, building that world. He helped like with all the casting and the voice work and all this stuff, but he didn't really get along with Matt Groening. They clashed a lot and he left after the 4th season, but he got a great deal for himself. He had a title of executive producer on that show. He got to keep his title, and he was given royalties for like future like video sales of the show. The Simpsons are still on the air, y'all. Like they're in like the show premiered in 90.
Yeah.
So it's been on for like 30 years. There's like literal like people walking around, adults who've never lived in a world where The Simpsons didn't exist. Like that's bananas. And then, of course, The Simpsons moved into syndication, and he just got rich. Like, he's getting, like, tens of millions of dollars every year. And he used that money for good. He started a foundation that trained dogs to help disabled people. He supported something called the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, which was something that was fighting against whale hunting. He also worked with the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, which
we have some issues with, but
we have issues with, but they also do some good things, so I get it. He's a vegan. He's like very into animals, In 2011, he started something called the Sam Simon Foundation, and it provides low-income families with free vegan meals. It was feeding like over 200 families.
Oh my God.
And it was fun. He was funding a mobile clinic that was providing like veterinarian services for dogs and cats of people with low income. And they were rescuing and retraining shelter dogs that were like going to be euthanized, like taking those dogs off of like basically death row and like giving them a second life. Yeah, okay, I read that part. So 60 Minutes did an episode on him in like March 2007, and they visited like a shelter that he started, and they said this is a quote, the grandest dog shelter in the country, a 5-star, 6-acre spread in Malibu. It's like the most desirable real estate on the planet, and it was for dogs. And it's like it had waterfalls and like perfectly manicured grounds, and it was filled with like stray and abandoned dogs.
I would love to live there. I know. That just sounds heavenly.
Yes. And he said, like, I think my passion for animals and against animal abuse is based on the knowledge that these creatures who feel and think can't speak for themselves, and they're dependent on us for that. I'm like, oh. By the way, he doesn't just he loves animals, but he also is like a board member on Save the Children. Like he helps humans too. Like
for some people think like if you're an animal lover, you don't like humans. Like it's fuck the children. I only care about
and like I
dogs.
said, he was feeding low income families and stuff like that. He used all this money for good. He was also like a competitive poker player.
Meg Tilly was his wife.
Jennifer Tilly.
Sorry.
Yeah, she also was a competitive poker player. They used to play together. They divorced, but they remained close until he died. Got married again to someone named Jamie Farrell. She was a Playboy model. They also got divorced, but they remained close. In 2012, he was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer that spread to his other organs. Fuck cancer.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, he arranged for his fortune to be left to all these charities. Like, he said, the truth is, I have more money that I'm interested in spending. Everyone in my family is taken care of, and I enjoy this. And he left all of his money to all these charities that I just mentioned. Like, they all have money because of this guy. It's bananas. Like, nobody does this. Nobody does this. He died at his home in Los Angeles, March 8th, 2015. He was only 59.
Oh, God.
But by all accounts was like not a creep. And I mean, all that fucking Simpsons money, and he put it to like help people with like low income and to help animals and all the people that he helps when like training all these dogs to like help people like seeing eye dogs that work with people who are hearing impaired, the dogs that work with vets, you know, and I mean veterans.
PTSD.
All that stuff. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a hell of a legacy.
Yes. So that's our non-creep, Sam Simon.
Good job, Sonia.
Thank you.
Well, if you're sticking with us, and that means you might like the sound of our voices. We hope you do.
Hope so.
We also co-host another podcast called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. Currently, we are dorking out about Legends of the Fall. We had thoughts and feelings.
Not A River Runs Through It. Not the other
that's what the other
Montana brother movie.
Legends of the Fall. Like I said, we had some thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, we did.
And what are we doing next, Sonia?
We're going to talk about The Quick and the Dead, which is currently streaming on the Criterion channel. It came out in 95 with Sharon Stone. It's got a young Leonardo DiCaprio in there, and Gene Hackman. I haven't seen this one in years, but it played at my movie theater, and I saw it a lot back in the day. So I'm looking forward to the rewatch and dorking out about it.
Excellent. Well, if you have suggestions for creeps or for non-creeps, all those places I mentioned at the top of the show, it'd be great to start to reach out to us. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift from Ghostbusters. We got one, or just pick something of your own. Yeah. Our email, once again, is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like some stickers, give us your address. We'll drop them in the mail for you. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on all the things, the Twitter, the Threads, the Blue Sky, the TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. What about you, Margot?
I, of course, had to make things more complicated for myself. So it's either under Brooklyn Margot or Brooklyn Fit Chick, and that's for all the social media things, including TikTok, where I got a K-Tel disco album thing going on my TikTok.
It's
Brooklyn Margot.
Really,
it cracked
so
me
funny.
up. All right, everybody. In the meantime, we'll be back next week with a new episode. Please be safe, be kind. Just don't be a creep.
Be a creep. Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.